Alright, what's going on, big dogs? SG Leo here, and in today's video, we'll be going over the recent Nickmercs controversy surrounding him, Activision, and the Call of Duty community as a whole. So sit back, relax, and let's dig into this. Alright guys, so this last week, Nickmercs has found himself in some hot water. And although I'm sure most of you have heard about this controversy and are up to date on the original issue and the original tweet, I'm going to do a small recap real quick for those of you who haven't seen it yet and are here to kind of get caught up on the whole ordeal. So over in Glendale, California this last week, I believe it was on the 7th of June, there was a large protest by parents over the school board in the area deciding on whether or not to recognize June as Pride Month at the school. And for those of you who don't know, Glendale, California has a fairly large religious population. Now, I know places like San Diego and places like that have a lot of Hispanic Catholics or people from like Mexico where they're still very devout Catholics. So I know that can be an issue in San Diego. I'm pretty sure in Glendale it's mainly just your basic Christians, but nonetheless there is quite a large religious population in the area. So obviously this was going to cause issues with the school board doing something like that. However, during these protests, kind of a riot broke out between the two sides. The people who wanted to allow like transgender month and have transgender days and things like that for children were there yelling at those people who were religious and did not want the school board to pass this Pride Month ordeal. And clips of this were, of course, filmed and uploaded to places like Twitter and TikTok and all over the place. And one clip that was shared to Twitter was then retweeted by an esports broadcaster who I believe used to do and still does Call of Duty, which then, of course, caught the attention of Nickmercs, because Nickmercs is obviously known for his FPS gameplay, especially in the Call of Duty scene. To which Nickmercs commented on this retweet saying, quote, "They should leave the little children alone." Now, at first, most people, I believe, don't think this is a very controversial tweet. And over the last weekend, it seems to me that most people, especially in the Call of Duty community, are on his side. It tends to be those who aren't playing Call of Duty or have no idea really who Nickmercs even is, are the people who tend to be against him. So the Twitter mobs, people like that, YouTube comment sections, just those normal crazy individuals who like to just go on Twitter or go on YouTube comment sections, purposely get offended, and then leave rude comments to people like me, Nickmercs, and other people like that. Now, Activision retaliated against Nickmercs saying this by removing his operator bundle from Warzone. So for those of you who don't know what that is, basically in Warzone, you can basically select a character and it doesn't give you any bonuses or anything like that. You just look different. It's just an outfit for your operator, for your character. That's all it is. And so the Nickmercs bundle was you got to basically be Nickmercs' character in Warzone. So Nickmercs has a huge following, and a lot of people were very excited that him, along with TimTheTatman, got their own operator bundle. It was very popular. It still is very popular, and a lot of people were very upset that Activision decided to take this down. So a lot of people started to uninstall the game, and a lot of prominent figures in the community started to uninstall the game. Dr.Disrespect was the kind of first big name to really retaliate to this decision by Activision. He started up his live stream and said that until Activision publicly apologizes to Nickmercs or reinstates his operator bundle, he is no longer going to be playing Call of Duty. Now, some of you might say that's not a big deal because for those of you who don't know, Dr.Disrespect and Activision kind of have been butting heads, or the Call of Duty community have been butting heads for several years at this point. Basically, he used to work for Call of Duty and made maps and things like that, and he kind of had a falling out with them because they became kind of just a money-hungry organization and not really about good gameplay anymore. And to an extent, they still are kind of like that, so a lot of people weren't super surprised that Dr.Disrespect decided to kind of throw shade at Activision by uninstalling the game, but nonetheless, he's a very prominent figure in the community, and it definitely can impact their player base. Not only that, but the big surprise, honestly, over the weekend was that TimTheTatman, somebody who really never gets himself in any controversy, he's a very nice, likable guy, He really doesn't say anything negative. He doesn't get into the political spectrum of things. He usually isn't posting any like pride events or anything like that. He's usually just he's just here to entertain people and play games, which is how I think most things should be. So I do have to say I respect his decision to usually just stay quiet on these things. But obviously, TimTheTatman and Nickmercs have been friends for a very long time. They've streamed together for years at this point. They play together almost every single day. Like, they are very close friends. And TimTheTatman decided to, I'll put the tweet up for you guys. He decided to ask Activision to also remove his operator skin, which to me was extremely surprising, being that, again, he doesn't really like to get involved with a lot of this drama. He doesn't really like to, stick his nose where he just doesn't feel it belongs. He likes to just kind of stay out of the controversy. And for the most part, that's fine. But in a situation like this, it was really nice to see that he showed up and backed his friend and was like, no, this is wrong. He's allowed to have differentiating opinions compared to me and compared to other people. And he even went on his stream and said, Nick is not a bad guy. He meant zero harm by this. All he is saying is that they need to leave little children alone, because this is a topic that, as Nickmercs said, which I'll get to in a second, he believes parents should be the ones teaching their kids about these things. With that being said, Nickmercs did kind of quasi apologize. He didn't really apologize. He did double down on what he said, but he also was like, hey, look, I support whatever you guys do outside of the public view. If you are gay or trans or bisexual or whatever you may be, he supports you. He just doesn't believe that school is a place where children should be learning about sexual education and what types of sex there is out there to learn and what you can and can't do with the human body, right? His stance on the whole ordeal was that it's up to the parents to teach their children about these things, and that parents need to quit delegating their job as a parent, which is to raise a child to become a functioning member of society, and delegating that onto the schools, because that has caused a lot of this political tension in the world, because a lot of parents don't want to do that because it makes them uncomfortable or it makes them feel weird that they have to talk to their kid about sex and things like that. Now, my personal opinion on this entire matter is I think Nickmercs went about it very professionally. He tweeted what he felt. It wasn't anything over the top. It wasn't anything ridiculous or bad. And he handled the Twitter mob extremely well. He said, look, this is my opinion. This is what I believe. I don't hate anybody. If you think I hate you or that I don't like you or you now hate me because of something I said on Twitter and you want to never watch me again, that's fine. I'm going to stand by what I said because I genuinely believe that. And then he also basically told parents, hey, if you aren't mature enough to tell your kids about these situations and to talk to them about these really touchy subjects that sure can make somebody feel uncomfortable and aren't exactly the easiest conversations to have with a kid, then maybe you shouldn't have been a parent, right? These are things that when you're thinking about starting a family or accidentally starting a family, these are things you need to talk about and understand and realize that these are going to come up in the future, and you shouldn't just be delegating your job as a parent off onto everybody. And I think the main reason for that is a lot of people just don't want to take the blame if something does go wrong, right? So, for instance, let's use like the Catholics, for instance. I came from a Catholic household, right? I'm still a pretty devout Catholic. I go to church on Sundays. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like this saint. If you guys watch my streams or see my clips, I'm not like some holy saint person. I swear all the time. I have a potty mouth and I say terrible things, but they're all jokes, and I got a community here that understands that. But let's say that a Christian conservative family is telling their kids about the birds and the bees, and even with them teaching them about the Bible and about all this stuff, their kid grows up and is still gay, right? That can happen. It happens all the time, right? You can't really change who you're attracted to, right? That just happens. Now, that family might be upset, but if they were to dish it off on the school And instead of them teaching their kid about the birds and the bees, they dish it off on the school. They can then blame the school that their kid turned out that way. And I think that's kind of where this is all coming from. I think a lot of parents just don't want to confront their kid about these type of things because it makes them feel uncomfortable. And they worry that if they do mess up, it'll like mess up their kid forever, and that other people will come after them. Like, man, your kid wouldn't have ended up like that if you would have taught him the right way or something like that. And that's the crazy part about parenting is you're never going to get it right. Parenting is one of the hardest things in the world to do because you're legitimately raising a human being that, despite being your kid, can have a completely, totally different personality and goals and morals. And it's insane what can happen, right? Because every person is so drastically different for the most part. It's incredible. It's a miracle for sure, you know? Overall, I think the situation by Nickmercs was handled really well. And again, I have to tip my hat to like dr.disrespect and a lot of these other major streamers who have been protesting Activision and deleting Call of Duty and not playing Warzone or multiplayer or anything like that anymore, because this is ridiculous. This is a very childish move by a massive corporation, and a corporation that doesn't even delegate or operate in a political spectrum at all. The entire thing about Activision is that they make Call of Duty. That's their big thing. They just make war games. Sure, they make a few other games, but their big thing is Call of Duty. And for whatever reason, Activision, like a lot of other companies, have decided to basically turn their back on their player base or on their fan base or on their consumers and are giving them stuff that they don't want. I remember when Modern Warfare 2 came out this last November, everybody was having a bird because a game about wartime, a game about military members, and a game that is supposed to be about, you know, supporting veterans and honoring and remembering those who have served and sacrificed for us here, they didn't even have any American flags in the entire game. There are pride flags all over the place, but you can't select an American flag as like your banner. You can't have it as like your profile pic, nothing, right? This game that's supposed to be all about supporting your troops and like, yeah, the game is way more, you know, over the top than what actual war is or anything like that. It's a video game after all, but for a long time, Call of Duty was about, you know, the Wounded Warriors Project and, you know, the 22-a-day veteran stuff and, you know, supporting those who had made the ultimate sacrifice. That was what the game really tried to do. They've done all sorts of charity events and things like that. And then as of recently, they've shifted from that into this woke, crazy, like super leftist organization, which to me is crazy because most of the people who play this game aren't like that. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in a Call of Duty lobby, but you are called every racist, homophobic, terrible name you can possibly imagine. Even if you're the worst player in the lobby, if you get one kill on some dude who thinks he's better than you, you will get called the worst possible names you can imagine. It's incredible. And yet Activision, not only do they know this, they don't really do anything to stop it either. They know this, and yet they still go against their consumer and still insist on kind of just moving left and alienating their player base, really. And what's funny about this all, too, just to kind of wrap this up, is not only are there now player base declining, like not only is their player base now declining and they're losing money, of course, because Bud Light did it, they lost money. Target's done it, they're losing money. All these corporations are starting to lose money over this crap, and nobody's learning because they get all this praise and stuff on Twitter. Like, oh yeah, way to go Target or way to go Activision for taking our side. But if they're not buying your product, it doesn't matter, right? If I was gay and I was super leftist and all that kind of stuff, but my way of making money was selling t-shirts for conservative people, I'm not going to start making gay pride shirts for conservative people because that's not going to sell. I'm going to lose money. And yet that's exactly what these people are. They have these core consumer audiences that have been using their product for years, and then now they're just turning their back on them, and then they're dumbfounded about how they're not making profit. Like, they expect these people who never bought their product in the first place that all of a sudden, because they slap a rainbow sticker on there, all of these individuals are going to turn around and now be like, oh, well, now there's a rainbow sticker on this gun. I am all of a sudden totally for the NRA and the Second Amendment. Like it just doesn't work that way. So at the end of the day, guys, I think Nickmercs and the Twitch community, and especially the Call of Duty community, have handled this extremely well. I think the massive support from Nickmercs is honestly a sigh of relief. I saw this tweet last week, and I really wanted to see how it played out over the weekend. And again, I saw dr.disrespect and TimTheTatman being like, hey, no, this is BS. We're done with this game. You guys should be too. This is stupid. Nickmercs is a good guy. And the entire Call of Duty community has basically rallied behind him. And it's been a wonderful sight to see. And it's been just such a sigh of relief for, honestly, like just society as a whole. Because this like almost never happens. It almost always ends up being somebody says one thing bad and then everybody comes for their throat. So this was just kind of a nice breath of fresh air, to say the least. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed the video, remember to please leave a like, comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm going to be trying to upload at least 2 to 3 times a week. I'm really trying to push out these videos. A lot of stuff going on right now, so hopefully I can just really start cranking out videos and stuff like that. But again, guys, thank you all for tuning in. I really do appreciate your time. Until next time, guys, Godspeed.
I lost my best friend to 23. She left her body in Harvard above me.